Chapter 46. A Wedding in the Ashes. Place me like a seal over your heart, for love is as strong as death. Many waters cannot quench love, rivers cannot sweep it away. Song of Songs 8, verse 6. It started with a shovel. James was digging a new post hole where the old fence had burned, shirt clinging to his back, sun climbing high. Ruthie stood nearby, arms full of salvaged timber. They were quiet, just the creak of leather gloves, the scrape of wood, the occasional cough from the dust still rising from the scorched earth. Then James leaned on the shovel and looked up at her.
What if we just got married here?
He asked. Ruthie blinked, half smiling. Here as in, right here?
Here as in on the land.
He clarified.
Not in some hall, just here, among the gum trees, the paddocks, the people who stood beside us when it all could have ended.
Her heart swelled, not with glitter or grandeur, but something deeper. She set the timber down and walked over to him, dust in her hair, love in her eyes.
I wouldn't want it anywhere else. Just us, and the people who matter,
she said. By sunset, the plan had taken root like a seed in warm soil. They would marry on the land, the very land that had burned and lived, the very place that had nearly broken them and built them, not with crowds, not with perfection, but with presence. Word spread fast, because it always did in towns like theirs. One whispered conversation at the bakery, one phone call to a neighbor, and by morning it seemed like the whole valley knew that James and Ruthie were getting married. And with the news came offers. Naomi, still in her muddy gumboots from helping with the fire cleanup, grinned as she held up a bundle of handmade table runners.
These somehow survived the shed,
she said.
They've got singed edges, but that just adds character, right?
Margaret beamed with a kind of youthful energy that belied her age.
I still have my old lace veil,
she declared, fishing it out of a yellowed box from the back of her linen closet.
Wore it only once. About time it saw the light again, and I'm taking charge of food. No arguments.
Neil, quiet and steady, opened a cedar box he'd kept sealed for 40 years. Inside were chisels, smooth from years of use, and a blueprint for a handmade altar he'd once dreamed of building for his daughter's wedding.
Figured it was time to finish it,
he said simply.
For you two.
Micah volunteered to pick the wine and champagne, claiming he had
just the right bottle
stored under his bed from a trip to the Barossa in 2009. He promised to toast until the stars came out. And Pastor Luke? He was practically glowing.
I get to do the ceremony,
he said, eyes twinkling like a man 10 years younger.
And I've got a few dozen folding chairs stacked behind the vestry. They'll do just fine.
No one asked about color schemes. No one asked for RSVPs or seating plans or security deposits. They just showed up, with arms full and hearts open, with stories and laughter and casseroles, with wheelbarrows, bunting, hand-picked wildflowers, and hymn sheets printed on recycled paper. Because in towns like theirs, weddings weren't events. They were offerings. They were love in motion. They were the sound of hammers on timber and pies in the oven, and someone tuning a battered old guitar on the porch. They were home. The week passed like a blur, full of clinking hammers, floral donations from nearby farms, and mismatched chairs dragged from every neighbor's shed. Ruthie stood in the middle of the paddock one afternoon, looking at the space where they'd say their vows. A ring of stones had been laid down, and someone, Naomi probably, had tied eucalyptus and gum nuts along the outer fence. She turned slowly, barefoot in the grass, the breeze tugging at the hem of her cotton skirt. James approached from behind, wrapping his arms around her waist.
Looks like a wedding,
he murmured. It was a week before the wedding, and James and Ruthie had invited Naomi and Micah over for lunch. Ruthie sat on the back step beside Naomi, a steaming cup of chamomile cupped between her palms. The night air wrapped around them like a soft shawl, cool quiet, alive with the hum of crickets and the faint rustle of leaves. Above them, stars spilled across the sky, bright and countless, scattered like diamonds on black velvet.
You nervous?
Naomi asked after a long stretch of silence, her voice low and reverent, like the question itself was sacred. Ruthie took her time before answering. She watched the steam rise from her mug, curling upward in gentle spirals, like prayers lifting into the night. Then, with a small shake of her head, she replied.
No, not nervous.
She paused, her thumb trailing slow, thoughtful circles around the rim of the mug.
I'm just full. Like I can't hold all the feelings in one chest. There's grief, joy, hope. It's all there, layered, pressing against my ribs like it's too much, and yet, just enough.
Naomi smiled softly, her eyes shining.
That's love. The real kind. It doesn't just fill you, it remakes you.
Ruthie turned to her, eyes glinting in the starlight.
Naomi,
She said, her voice thick with emotion.
I love you. I don't know what I would have done without you. You are my family. Not by blood, but by fire, by faith, and by choice.
Naomi blinked fast, her breath hitching.
I have something I've been wanting to ask.
Ruthie continued, setting her mug down.
I want you to stand beside me on the day I say yes to forever. Will you be my bridesmaid?
Naomi looked down, brushing an invisible speck of dust from her jeans, but it couldn't hide the tears already streaking down her cheeks. When she lifted her face again, her smile trembled with joy.
I would be honored.
She said, voice breaking. Ruthie reached over, arms wide, and they pulled each other into a tight embrace, one that held years of history, months of healing, and a lifetime's worth of gratitude. They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in silence, stars above, hearts open, and the kind of love that didn't need to be spoken to be understood. Inside, the warmth of the kitchen wrapped around them like an old wool jumper. The smell of fresh timber polish lingered faintly in the air, mingling with the comforting scent of coffee brewing on the stove. James sat at the kitchen table with Micah, a quiet sense of purpose settling between them.
I've been thinking.
James said, voice a little rough around the edges.
You've always been there, through everything. You've seen the worst of me, and somehow you still stick around.
Micah smirked.
Someone's got to keep you out of trouble.
James let out a quiet laugh, the kind that softened the weight in the room, then looked up, his expression shifting back to something tender and true.
I'd be honored if you stood beside me on the day,
He said.
as my groomsman.
Micah blinked, caught off guard for a moment. A flicker of emotion crossed his face, brief but real.
You don't have to ask me that, mate.
He replied, voice low with feeling.
I was going to be standing up there, next to you either way.
Their eyes met, and then they both laughed, deep, genuine, the kind of laugh that only comes after walking through fire together and still finding joy on the other side. That afternoon, the four of them, Naomi, Ruthie, James, and Micah, gathered outside near the old barbecue, its lid rusted in patches but still doing its job. The sky above stretched wide and blue, a soft breeze teasing the edges of the tablecloth someone had pinned down with smooth river stones. Laughter drifted like music through the air, mingling with the sizzle of sausages and the clink of mismatched plates. Naomi passed around enamel mugs filled with ginger beer, while Bear dozed in the shade, tail occasionally thumping in contentment. They talked about nothing and everything, childhood stories, near disasters, awkward teenage moments, and dreams for the future. But more than that, they simply were, together, whole, chosen. There was something sacred in the simplicity of it. No titles, no roles. Just four people who had walked through fire, grief, and grace, and found each other on the other side. Family, not by blood, but by bond.
Thank you for listening to this chapter of Healing on the Land. If this story has touched your heart, I'd love for you to come join me for the next chapter. You can find it here on this channel. If you'd like to support more Christian storytelling, you can purchase the full book or make a donation using the link in the description. Your support, no matter the size, helps us to continue writing stories of faith, healing, and hope. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. May God bless you, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.